How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Vav, Daf 106 of Masechta Ksubis. Friends, well, we're kind of far into Daf Vav Mud Aleph, which is really good because it's like a Simchas Torah is like starting like pretty freaking soon, and I haven't even started recording yet, so it's good that we've done a whole bunch yesterday. Today we talk about some complicated stuff actually. Remember Masechta Shkalim? Remember how hard that was? So it kind of comes up, it's like, not like super crazy, but like, it's like some Shkalim stuff, which it gets a little bit technical. So we'll get into that and yeah, some other stuff. So, okay. So we're going to start on Daf Kuf Vav Mud Aleph. I don't know, like more than halfway through the Amud. So like, maybe like 10, 15 lines before it gets wide, maybe like 20 lines before the bottom of the page. It says, Amr B'Yitzchak Bar Redifa, Amr B'Ami. Got it? Good. Mevakri Mumin Shabi Yerushalayim. So the people in Jerusalem who would check out mums, they would check out for blemishes on animals, because a sacrifice cannot have a blemish. They would be paid from the Trumas Halishka. So what's the Trumas Halishka? So the Trumas Halishka, okay, so there's like three things over here, right? So there's like three, yeah, okay, so there's like these, this was like a little confusing, but okay, there's basically, okay, we learned Masechta Shkalim, right? So like they would collect these half shekels every year, and you would donate a half shekel to Jerusalem, to like the Beis HaMikdash. And then it would go, and that collection would be used for like paying for like communal sacrifices and stuff. Now, if there were leftover coins in the baskets that they would collect in, and like there was like leftovers in those baskets, so that's the truma. That's what we're referring to when we're referring to truma salishka. It's those leftover coins in the baskets, not to be confused with shiyare alishka, which is after they would take the coins out of the office where they were being stored, and then they would take those out, whatever was left in the office. That's the shiyare alishka. So like there's the coins, there's like there's the coins that were used to like pay for korbanos and stuff. And then there's the leftover coins in the baskets, I guess that weren't used for korbanos. So that's one section. Then there's like the leftovers in the office after they removed the coins from the office. That's the shiare alishka. So when we're talking about trumas alishka, we're talking about the leftover coins in the basket that weren't used for the korbanos. Okay? So they would use those leftover coins to pay for the people that would check for mums and animals in Jerusalem. Amr Reviewed Amr Shmuel says, Reviewed in the name of Shmuel, Tamidi Chacham, Lamd and Hilchos Shchita L'Kayanim. The Torah scholars who would teach the laws of slaughtering to the priests, they would also be paid from the Trumas Halishka. Amr Gidol Amr Rab says, of Gidol named Rab, Tamidi Chacham, Lamd Hilchos Kmitza L'Kayanim, Natan Schar Trumas Halishka. Says of Gidol in the name of Rab that the Torah scholars that would teach the laws of taking fistfuls of flour, they would teach those halachas to the priests. So notam schar trumas halishka, they would also be paid from the trumas halishka, from these coins. The people that would check Sifrei Torah to make sure that they weren't puzzle. So those Torah checkers in Jerusalem, they would be paid also from the trumas halishka. That the women who would weave the curtains of the temple, they would also be paid from the Trumas Halishka. V'ani Omer says Rav Nachman, but I myself say, right, that was him quoting Rav. Now he's saying his own opinion is Mikot Shebedek Habayis, that these women who were weaving these curtains would be paid from the Bedek Habayis, from the money of the temple upkeep. Ha'ulu Farochos Tachas Binyon Asuyas, because since the curtains were in place of parts of the building, as we will see in a minute. So we have a kasha, that we have a brisa that says that the women who would weave the curtains, as well as beis garmu, we've learned about in, I think, Masechta Shkalim and Masechta Yoma, maybe. So they were in charge of the lechem haponim, with beis avtinos, amaise aktoris, and beis avtinas for the Ketores. Kulan hayu notlo schar mitrumas halishka. They would be paid from the trumas halishka. So Rav Nachman had said that they would be paid from bedek habayis. So also b'de bove. So the Gemara says, well, it depends. There were two types of curtains. There were curtains that were used for the gates, right? And those came from the Trumas Bedek, from the Trumas Halishka. That there were 13 of these curtains in the B'mikdash Sheni, in the second temple. Shiva Keneged Shiva Shairim. 7 of the curtains were by 7 of the gates, and those were paid for by the Trumas Halishka. Echad leFischol Shel Heichel, and there was a curtain for the entrance to the Heichel, to the sanctuary. V'echad lePischol Shel Ulam, one for the entrance to the Ulam. Beis B'Tvir, 2 of them to separate the Kodesh and the Kodesh Kodashim. Beis Kenegdom B'Aliyah, and then 2 of them in the attics above the Kodesh and the Kodesh Kodashim, in the same place where there were these 2 curtains in the second temple, separating the Kodesh and Kodesh Kodashim, also in the same place, but in the level above them were also 2 more curtains, and those were part of the temple itself, so those were paid for from the Bedek Habayis, from the temple upkeep funds. Fine. The rabbis taught, the women that would raise their children for the Parah Aduma. Do you remember this? This came up in Masechta Sukkah, right? That there were these women that would give birth to their sons in this completely pure area, and these children would be raised in complete purity, so that they would be involved in preparing the Parah Aduma. And this was because, as we've seen before, that the Parah Aduma is able to be, the ashes are able to be prepared by a Tvul Yom, somebody who is tummy until the evening, and as like a shtach against the tzdukim. But because they allow a Tvul Yom, so they want to show with everything else that they're being extra pure, and therefore, to the extent that there were these kids that were raised in complete purity from the time that they were born, to show how seriously we take the purity of the Parah Aduma. But at the same time, in order to make a point against the tzdukim, it would be prepared by a kohen who's a Tvul Yom. So these women would be paid from the Trumas Halishka. Whereas Abba Shaul says no, actually there were wealthy women in Jerusalem that would support and that would provide food and money, that would support these Rashi says food and clothing. So these wealthy women would support these women who were raising their children in complete purity. Okay, but Mina Rafuna may Rav. So Rafuna asks Rav Klesharis, Maushe Yeasu Mikoche Bedek Habayis. So the service vessels in the temple, would they be made using the funds from the temple upkeep? Do we say Tzorach Mizbeach Ninu Mikoche Bedek Habayis? Do we say that these service vessels are considered like a need of the altar, and therefore it would come from the temple upkeep, or are they considered needed for the sacrifices, and they would come from those leftover coins in the baskets from the half shekels. So Amalei ain't nice in Elo Michumas Halishka. So Rav says that they are funded by the Trumas Halishka, not by the Bedek Habayis. Eisvei uchichalosam heviu lifnei hamelech v'yoyoda es shar akesef v'yaseu kelim leveis Hashem klesharis v'gomer. So it says in this pasuk that they use the money of the Bedek Habayis for the klesharis. So why is Rav saying that it's the Trumas Halishka? So Omalei. So Rav Huna asked asked Rav about this pasuk. So Amalei, so Rav responds to Rav Huna that karich ksuvei la'karich nevi'eh, that whoever taught you the scriptures, right, such as that pasuk, such as that verse that you quoted from Divrei Hayamim, did not teach you the prophets, because there's a pasuk in the prophets in Malachim. In Malachim, it says, Ach lo ye'ose beis Hashem sipos v'gomed ki lo'ose amlacha yitnu, that the money of the Bedek Habayis did not go for klesharis, it went to pay the workers of the temple. So we see that the klesharis were not funded by the Bedek Habayis, right? So Rav had said that the klesharis were funded by the Trumas Halishka. Rav Huna quoted a pasuk that made it seem like it was quoted from that these vessels were funded by the Bedek Habayis, but then Rav says, but we have another pasuk that says that Bedek Habayis funds were not used for the klesharis. So but then what do we do with these conflicting pasukim? One pasuk says that the klesharis were funded by the Bedek Habayis, and yet another pasuk is saying that the Bedek Habayis was used for paying the salaries of the workers, not for klei sharis. Lo kasha, it's no problem. Kan shegavu ve'osiru, kan shegavu ve'lo osiru. Well, it depends if there was extra money from the Bedek Habayis. If there was extra money, so then it could be used for the klei sharis. But if there wasn't extra money, so then it was not used for the klei sharis, it was used to pay salaries. V'chigavu ve'osiru mayhave. But I don't understand. If Rav is saying that the service vessels need to be paid for from the Trumas Halishka, so I don't care if there's leftover Bedek Habayis money. How could that be used for the Klei Sharis? The leftover Bedek Habayis is just that. It's leftover Bedek Habayis money. That's not usable. We need Klei Sharis. We need the Trumas Halishka money. So Amar Rababo says, Rababo, Leiv Bezdin Masna Aleim, the heart, the intent of the court makes a condition that, well, sort of the intention of the court was such that whatever this money was for the Bedek Habayis, if there were to be, they had a condition that if there would be extras, those extras would be for the service vessels. Tanit Rabbi Shmuel taught in the Besmedrash of Rabbi Shmuel Klei Sharis Boin Mitrumas Halishka, that the service vessels come from this Trumas Halishka. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, as Shara Kesef, that initial pasuk that was actually used to teach that the Klei Sharis are constructed are made from the Bedek Habayis. We're actually using that same pasuk to say as Shara Kesef. What does it mean Shara Kesef? Ezu Kesef Sheish Lo Shiraim. What is money that has leftovers? Have Omer Zeh Trumas Halishka. So this is the Trumas Halishka, right? Because meaning so as we said, there's like three types of money of these half shekels, right? There's the half shekels themselves, then there's the leftover half shekels that were not used from the baskets, but then there's also the leftover shekels in the office that just were not taken for whatever reason. So what is money that can have these leftovers in the office? So that's the Trumas Halishka. So therefore, it's talking about, so that's how we know that the Klei Sharis come from the Trumas Halishka. Maybe I'll say that it is the Shiari Halishka. Maybe it's these leftover monies in the office, not the leftover money in the basket. No, it's like Rava says, Ola Rishona, just like when it comes. Is somebody saying something to me? I don't know, maybe somebody's saying something to me, I'm not sure. Rava says, Ola Rishona, that when it says by the korban, it says ha'ola, the ola. So it's talking about the first ola, i.e. the korban, right? The tamid shel shachar. Ha'chanami akesef kesef rishon. So also when it says the money, it's talking about the initial money, i.e. the money from the half shekels, not the money that was like left over in the office from the half shekels. Meisvei, we have a kasha. Haktoris v'chol korbanos tzibur, the incense and all of the public sacrifices, boin mitrumas halishka, come from the trumas halishka. We don't say anything about the klei sharis. Mizbach hazov, the golden altar, ulevona, and the frankincense, v'klei sharis, and the klei sharis, boin mimoser nesachim, come from the moser nesachim. That is basically surplus flour, right? They would pay for flour for the Mizbeach and for the Beis HaMikdash, and there were different ways that there would be surplus flour, and those surplus flour would be used, I guess they would sell it, and that money would be used to fund these projects, including the Klei Sharis. Mizbach HaOla, the altar for the Ola offering, Halashachos, V'Azaros, the offices and the azars in the Beis Hamikdash, they come from the temple upkeep money. Chutz l'chomas ha'azara, and then outside of the walls of the azara of the Beis Hamikdash, those come from the shiari alishachos. As opposed to the trumas halishka, these come from the shiari, right? Those coins that were left in the office. Zoi shechaninu chomas ha'ir umigdaloseh. This is what we teach, that the walls of the city and the buildings, and all the needs of the city, come from the shiari halishka. So on the one hand, we're saying that the klei hasharis come from the shumas halishka. On the other hand, we have this brisa that says that it comes from the shiari nesachim, from the moser nesachim. So tanoi, so it's taka machlokas tanoim. The Tananis we learned in Mishnah moser truma, that the moser truma, mayu osimba. What would they do with this leftover, right? These leftover coins in the basket. So Rikuei Zav Tzipor Leves Kodesh HaKodashim, they would make sort of gold plating for the Kodesh HaKodashim. Rabbi Shmuel, Omer says Rabbi Shmuel, Moser Peiris, we'll explain what these leftover fruits are later, but these leftover fruits, Leketz HaMizbeach, they would be used for funding animals for sacrifices when there are no other animals to offer on the Mizbeach, right? There should always be an animal being sacrificed on the Mizbeach, and if they run out of like Nidarim and Nidavis and animals to offer, so they would use the Moser Peiris to pay for the Ketzim, these offerings, for the Ketzim Mizbeach offerings. Moser Truma, the Chlei Sharis, or the Moser Truma would be for the Klei Sharis, okay. Rabbi Akiva Omer Moser Truma the Ketzim Mizbeach. Rabbi Akiva says no, the Moser Truma was for the Ketzim Mizbeach. Moser Nesachim the Klei Sharis, but the leftover flour from the flour offerings, that would be for the Klei Sharis. So we see a machlokas here between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva. Was the Moser Truma for the Klei Sharis, or was the Moser Nesachim for the Klei Sharis? Rabbi Chanani ben Eskana Kohanim Omer says Rabbi Chanani Eskana Kohanim Moser Nesachim the Ketzim Mizbeach, that he says that the leftover flour offering were for the Ketzim Mizbeach, Moser Truma the Klei Sharis, and the leftover Truma was right from these coins were for the Klei Sharis as well. That both Rabbi Akiva and Reb Chanina's Kanakwanim don't say anything about these Moser Peiris. Okay, fine. Peiris Mai, what are these leftover fruits? The Tanis will learn in the Brisa, Moser Truma, Mahayu Osimba. What would you do with these leftover half shekels in the baskets? So Lokhin Peiris Bizol, they would use them to buy cheap fruits. There's a place in Shuk Machne Yehuda where you can buy very cheap fruits. Mochin Osim Biyoker, and then they would sell them for a very nice price. And the profit they would use to fund the Ketzim Mizbeach offerings. And this is what we taught, that these leftover fruits, right, meaning the profits from selling these fruits that they bought low and sold high, they would use to fund the Ketzim Mizbeach. I think some noise just came. What does it mean that both Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Chanina's Kanakwanim did not did not mention the Peiris? The Tanan Moser Shari Lishka Lishacha Ma Are You Osim? And what would they do with the Shiare Lishka, these leftover coins from the Lishka in the office? Ma Are You Osim? What would they do? Lokim Bo Yenos Shmanum V'Slatos. They would buy wines and oils and flowers, V'Asachar Lehektish, and whatever they would sell them, whatever profit would go to Hektish. To Rabbi Shmuel, that's Rabbi Shmuel's opinion. Rabbi Kiva says Rabbi Kiva Mistakrin Bishal Hektish, that you don't make money off of Hektish, Af Lo Bishal Aniyim. You also don't make money off of funds that are set aside for poor people, right? So if they had funds that were set aside for giving charity to poor people, you wouldn't then invest it in like a business or something. Because let's see, Bishal Hektish my time alo. How come you don't use the money of Hektish for other things? And Aniyus b'makom ashiris, because the temple is a place of opulence. We don't want to start now, nickel and diming, seeing what we could take and sell it and make a profit, and we're not going to do that. Look, we have a lot of shefa in the Beis Hamikdash. We don't need to do that. Bishal Aniyim my time alo. How come we don't sell money that's set aside for poor people? Right? Well, because if you're taking the money of poor set aside for poor people, investing it in businesses, well then when the poor people come, there's not going to be money for them. All right, friends, that was Daf Kuf Vav Masechta Ksubis. I hope you enjoyed it. I have to run for Simchas Torah now. Have a good one. Peace out. Bye.